Welcome back to the continuing adventures of the monad. This is the 27th and final presentation in the series on the science of the Antahkarana. We conclude this most important of all topics relating to the evolution of humanity through the fourth kingdom and beyond. If you were to summarize the most important attribute of each triad, it would be intelligence for the first triad, love for the second, and will for the third. The world teachers from the past and to the present day have emerged from their lofty perches to anchor initially intelligence and later love as energies and attributes within the body of the planetary logos. By their appearance amongst us, they have displayed this attribute and the degrees to which it has been incorporated into the collective evolution of humanity. These teachings have not just been exemplified by the world teachers, but by their disciples as well. Each one of these points of light offers a differing focus on spiritual unfoldment. They appear amongst us in response to group invocation from those that have these latent qualities within themselves. The receivers of these messages act as a step-down transformer for that wisdom. Don't think you can waltz up to a third self and have an intelligent conversation. You will definitely need a translator. Many of these servers of the truth are forgotten. Others have been resolved into myth. In creating a myth, humanity builds an egregore through its collective thought action. In this way, the message is remembered. We also have a tendency to mark these thought forms in stone monuments and traditions. But we should be aware that what is being fed to us from the egregore is what we fed into it in the first place. Garbage in, garbage out. Nevertheless, there is always a kernel of truth in our myth-making, and it is up to the seekers after the truth to fathom out what this truth may be. Let us look now at a few of these great teachers and the messages they expounded. We should probably start with the granddaddy of them all, Vyasa. Not the later variants, but the original monad. This mighty being was invoked in early animal humanity. He opened the door into the human kingdom through his response to the devas who were managing the evolution of the animal kingdom of the time. Vyasa has passed out of our planetary scheme millions of years ago. But we should be eternally grateful for his efforts in the process of our collective individualization. Since this original act, other members of the hierarchy have been evoked by the invocation of humanity. The focus has been on the development of consciousness in humanity as a whole. Later, another great adept came forth, who we remember as Hercules. This monad opened the path to discipleship. We remember these teachings as the 12 labors of Hercules. We do not have to face off against three-headed dogs. You may be relieved to hear. But those 12 labors have been outlined in previous presentations. They are worth understanding as each task has to be performed by each one of us. They are slightly more difficult than collecting a set of Pokemon cards. The performance of these tasks is a precursor along the path of discipleship leading to the various initiations that have to be taken. Another great teacher that deserves a mention is Sri Krishna, aka the Lord Maitreya. Approximately 6,000 years ago, he made an appearance that opened the door allowing disciples to take the second initiation. Later on, Krishna's boss, the Lord Buddha, the monad known as the Enlightened One, came to demonstrate to humanity the nature of the lighted way, its relevance and its effect on consciousness. His life was an enactment of the supreme achievement of the mystic way. At this time, the Lord Buddha took the I-8 and passed out of the solar system, taking up a position within the planetary government as one of the Buddhas of activity. Maitreya at this time took over the office of world teacher and came to Earth 150 years before the Common Era and performed 3 major tasks. He opened the door to the third initiation. He anchored on Earth the will of God in the matrix of love, as it is esoterically called. He pointed out the way through the eye of the needle, which leads the disciple towards the third triad. This is represented in stone in the form of a pyramid, and in Masonic symbology as a pyramid with an eye in its center. The entrance into the 6th kingdom of nature is just a stepping stone that leads to the foothills of Shambhala. This third aspect of the Christ message was alluded to in a few Gnostic phrases in the Bible, but never expounded by the Church that presented Christ as a static being and not a dynamic achievement that all monads must pass through. We should look at the Christ Maitreya incarnation as one of consummation. He demonstrated within himself 2 divine aspects, thus giving shape and substance to love. This was not just a one-time event. It was built up over time through the appearance of other adepts. The most significant was Sri Krishna, who we know was the same monad. Christ Maitreya completed the work of the Lord Buddha by manifesting in fullness the nature of love. This permitted the full expression of love wisdom in its duality. The love aspect was demonstrated by Christ Maitreya and the wisdom aspect by the Lord Buddha. We have talked about the first 2 tasks, but the third has yet to be realized in thought or religion, the revelation of the way of higher evolution. We have talked about this already several times, but it is worth reiterating that this way brings through the pure divine will, relating the spiritual hierarchy to the hierarchy in Shambhala. How was Christ Maitreya able to do this third task? Because he had a completely finished and constructed Antahkarana. I hope it is clear by now that the rainbow bridge is no simple structure that links the mental envelope 47.4 to the causal envelope 47.1. This mighty Antahkarana, built by Christ Maitreya, facilitates the work of all future aspirants and disciples. By his endeavors, Christ Maitreya has made possible the unimpeded progress as far as the opening of each stage of the planetary Antahkarana is concerned. He presented the first thread of living substance, irradiated by love, intelligently woven, and energized by will. Notice how in this esoteric statement all 3 triads are mentioned. Think of this first thread as one of many that each member of humanity will weave into the planetary Antahkarana. This is the secret of the 6th initiation, I-6, something not spoken often by occultists. What can we conclude from all that has been said so far? The whole of evolution through the Earth scheme is a succession of ascensions. This is a series of processes by which individuals, groups, and kingdoms of nature invoke an evocative response from higher, more enlightened and inclusive monads. The greatest of these monads are those that include whole kingdoms or states of being within their consciousness field. This is why an invocation by a group standing with mass intent can bring forth, and has done many times in our planetary history, one who could meet the needs of those doing the invocation. They are seeking a way of escape, and this mighty monad can embody within itself the required vision or goal. It is worth noting that we are now talking more about the collective rather than the path of the individual aspirant or disciple. We started this series by looking at disciples invoking their souls. We then went further and pointed out that disciples eventually invoke their monad, known as the Father in Gnostic traditions. We are now talking about the whole of humanity standing at a point of great invocation. This is where the final 3 steps of the 6 great stages in the process of building the Antahkarana that we have been discussing occurs. Invocation leads to evocation, and from there to revelation at the 5th initiation, I5, and a decision at the 6th initiation, I6. That decision is which of the 7 paths of expansion the monad will now walk. In a final summing up, in our study of the science of the Antahkarana, we have looked at the esoteric aspects of the mental unfoldment, whereby a disciple has been lifted into a realm that is neither occupied by the persona nor the soul, but all the way to the monad. Forget not that the persona remains the vehicle of expression of the one universal soul in its many aspects upon the physical plane. The soul may enter into group consciousness, but it remains a distinct point of consciousness. After stepping through the 6 stages of the conscious building of the Antahkarana, the disciple moves towards the 3rd triad, a realm that we do not have the capacity to comprehend yet. To fully understand this leg of the journey, you have to be able to function at the court of Shambhala. However, should any of you get there in the next few weeks, congratulations. You have achieved the ultimate goal of humanity. Back to the rest of us miserable monads. The information presented here has indicated to us that a mind trained in meditation, and therefore soul conscious, can, through the construction of the Antahkarana, reach the heights and stages of inclusiveness. This will introduce the disciple to certain aspects of the universal mind, as exemplified to us by the Lord of our planet, Sanat Kumara. Through the development of the Antahkarana and its conscious scientific use, the initiate becomes aware of what transpires in the council chambers of Shambhala. The initiate is now ready to begin to work as an exponent of the will aspect of divinity. However, take note, we have confined our discussion to the mental aspect in its 3 phases on the mental plane. These aspects of mind extend into states of being known only to trained disciples and initiates. This has therefore been a theoretical insight into a process that we hopefully will aspire to and eventually attain. Thank you.